After 80 years of grueling work and constantly running out of yarn, the second episode of the recreation series is officially here. Welcome to episode 2 of ikoxun Recreates. If you didn't already know, this is a series where I look through shows and movies we all enjoy and make pieces based on either actual pieces the characters wore or pieces inspired by them in a dramatically short period of time for reasons we quite don't know why. So, let's get into it.
Parents set me up with the son of a business associate. He's going to be a doctor. How old is he? 16? So he's going to be a doctor in 100 years. Well, my parents like to plan ahead.
Rory Gilmore is a girl in the show Gilmore Girls, which is a fun little series about the life of Rory and her mother Lorelai. The piece I'm recreating is the oversized cable knit sweater that she wears to school on the pilot episode of the series. This one took me a bit to figure out, and when I say a bit, I mean a long time. The first thing I did, as always, was take a billion screenshots of her wearing the sweater and then took the time to analyze the sweater in order to break it down to simpler terms. As I analyzed the sweater, I kind of drew it out as if the sweater was taken apart so that I would be able to understand the pattern a lot easier. In this screenshot here, you can see that the back panel starts off with seed stitch and then it follows by a stockinette stitch. After that, garter stitch follows and then a cable knit follows after that, and so on. I also had to do tremendous research using my handy dandy Google to basically search up every knit until the ones that looked like the ones on Rory's sweater looked identical. And looking it up on Google and a knitting book from the library, I figured out that the bumpy stitches are called seed stitch and the cables are, cable stitches. Okay, so I drew this little pattern thingy so I can really understand what exactly I'm doing with this sweater. And I basically went through all of these screenshots that I took just to analyze and see how exactly the pattern works. And basically there's a diamond in the center with like little stitches in the center of it. I don't know what that stitch is yet. I'm gonna try and find out. And then there's different size cables, like there's a small one on both sides of the diamonds, and then it goes to medium, small again, and then super large, and then small, and then there's this weird stitch at the sides of the panel, and that's for the front and the back. And then for the arms was kind of hard to figure out, but after looking, I realized, especially in this screenshot, it shows that the diamond's right here, and then it goes to the small stitch. And then if you look over here, it goes to the small stitch right here. So there's only one diamond. So I just added the one diamond in the middle, and then it goes from small, medium to small cables, because there's no, like you see how there's a big cable here? There's no big cable in this one. There's only the medium and the small cable. So I figured all that out. So right here, you see how it kind of rolls up a little bit. I figured that I would do stockinette stitch before I did rib stitch because there is some ribbing right there. And then I'm gonna do the same thing for her collar, because her collar right here, there's rib stitch and then it goes to stockinette stitch so it can curl at the top. So I'm gonna do all of that. I don't know if I can do it, but if I can do this, then I can basically do anything. So, after figuring out all the stitches and what I needed to do, I just needed to figure out how many of the stitches to do, which was the hard part. I figured out how long I wanted the sweater to be and then measured one of my cardigans to figure out how wide I would want it to be, which is 31 inches in length and 34 inches in width. At first, I was going to go at it by making a grid pattern and drawing out every single stitch that I needed to do, but to get to the width that I wanted, I would have to draw out at least 80 or so stitches, and I was not about to do that. Okay, so I've been sitting here for like the past 2 hours trying to figure this out, but I think the best way to figure it out is just to get started. After eventually choosing random numbers and just believing in myself with those numbers, I began the sweater. I started with the front panel and casted on 94 stitches with my light cream yarn. I did 6 rows of stockinette stitches and then 4 rows of rib stitches, which was the easy part. After that, I knew it was time to conquer my fear of whatever I was attempting to do and started working on the difficult part of the sweater. I added a billion stitch markers to help me guide me on my path and got to work. Warning, I was still figuring everything out as I was recording this, so yeah. Here is the pattern that I came up with to follow for the front and the back panel. I first started from the right with 17 seed stitches. To do a seed stitch, all you have to do is work the opposite of what you did in the last row. If you made a knit stitch, work a purl stitch. If you made a purl stitch, make a knit stitch. This creates that bumpy texture, but for the first row, just do one knit, one purl, and then start working the opposite stitches once you get to the next row. After the seed stitches, I did one stockinette stitch, which is just a knit on the right side and a purl on the wrong side. After, I did 2 garter stitches, which is just knitting on both sides of the project. Then I did an 8 cable twist that's right leaning. To do this, take a cable twister or anything you can hold your stitches on and place 4 stitches onto the cable twister. Then place it towards the back of the project and then knit the next 4 stitches. After you knit those 4 stitches, knit the 4 stitches that are on the cable twister. And that's a cable. The cables are in stockinette stitch, so on the wrong side of the project, you'll purl this section. You only twist the cables on the front or right side of the project, not the back. After, you do 2 garter stitches and then a stockinette, but I realized too late that I forgot to do the stockinette stitch, so I just go straight into the 4 cable twist that's right leaning. To do this, take the cable twister and add 2 stitches onto it, then place it towards the back of the project. After, knit the next 2 stitches and then knit the 2 stitches on the twister. After that, do 2 garter stitches and 1 stockinette stitch. For the middle of the project, where the diamond is going to be, you're going to do a garter stitch until you reach the parts where you have to twist. Here's a little pattern for the diamond section. For the first 3 right side rows, you're going to garter stitch to the middle and then do a cable 4 twist left leaning, which is just, instead of twisting it to the back, you twist it to the front. Then, after the twist, you're going to do garter stitch until you reach the other side of the project with the stockinette stitches and seed stitches, etc., etc. When you do the wrong side, you're going to do it normally, making sure to purl when you do stockinette stitches and knit when you are at the garter stitches. On the cable stitches, you don't twist. You just do regular purls like you would with stockinette stitch. After the first 3 right side row twists, what I did was move the stitch marker slightly to the side for each section and then did one side with a right leaning 4 cable twist and then the other side with a left leaning cable 4 twist. I gradually spread this out until there are no more garter stitches left and then switch positions. So the right side that leaned right would then have to lean left and so on. I really hope this makes sense because explaining this was incredibly difficult, and I hope the drawings help too if you're trying to make this. My internet was out for a couple of days, so I watched some Ghibli movies that I had stored on my in case I don't have Wi-Fi movie collection hard drive. I watched from Up on Poppy Hill, which was cute, and then it was like, and then it got cute again. And then I watched Grave of the Fireflies, which almost made me cry, but then I couldn't stop thinking about it for the next 4 to 5 days. I'm not sure what day this was, but it felt like this project was just never going to end. I'm going to thumbs up every Rory Gilmore is a bad person video I see on YouTube from now on because I agree now. I eventually got to how long I wanted the sweater to be, and it felt like such a relief until I thought about the fact that I have to repeat it for the back of the sweater. Yay. So I just finished the sweater. It stops about right here. It doesn't go to my thigh. I don't honestly need to make it that big because Rory is a little girl and I am a grown woman. So I don't need it to get all the way down there. I'm not gonna make it as long as the show because I have already used 4 balls of yarn and I'm running out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start making decreases for the shoulders, and that will kind of extend the length as well. And then I am going to start the arms. And just like that, we are finished with the first. Just like that, we're finished with the first part. Yay! As you can see, it is backwards. All right, and upside down. We're off to a great start right now. Okay. So you can see here, I officially finished it. When I hold it, it goes to right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get right on to the arms so I can complete this. I got straight into making the arms with whatever yarn I had left from the front panel. I highly underestimated how much yarn this project would eat up at least 3 to 4 different times. This is the pattern I created for the arms. It's very similar to the front panel, but I just took out the 8 cable twist on the sides. But something cool happened. As I was working on the arms, I became more familiar with the pattern I created to the point where I didn't need the stitch markers for anything else besides where the seed stitches end and the diamond twists in the middle. And I was working faster than I was when I started, which made me incredibly happy. And I ran out of yarn and grew delirious, but you know, it's just the norm. After finishing the arms, I began the back panel. At first, I was going to do the back panel with just seed stitch out of laziness, but then I forced myself to just do the original pattern because I knew I'd be happier if I did it how it's supposed to look. During this, I watched the first and second Harry Potter movies. To end the front and the back panels, I followed the pattern normally until I finished the 35th stitch, and then I casted off 24 stitches. After, I knitted 35 again and turned the work over to start decreases for the shoulders. For each side, I just decreased on the inner sides of both sides of the sweater for 8 rows and then casted the entirety of the back panel off the last row, which is row 88. I didn't record it, but I fell on the floor and let out the biggest sigh of relief you probably would have ever heard. The last thing I had to do was put the blasted thing together and add a collar. So I sewed each panel together like I normally do with the cardigans and sweaters by first sewing the shoulders together with the mattress stitch, and then the arms to the sides of the sweater, and then the sides of the sweater and the arms together. To do the collar, I inserted my needles into the back of the collar and then did 1 row of knit into every other stitch to make the neck get a bit smaller. And then after, I did 4 rows of rib stitch and then 8 rows of stockinette stitch, and then I was done. Okay, so this is the reveal of Rory Gilmore's sweater. The sleeves look long, and as you can see, I didn't weave this part in. But to get that look that she has where the sleeves are rolled up, I made them long on purpose. I probably didn't have to make them this long, but you know, let's go ahead and roll them up. And we're done. So I want to say that I really like how the design came out. This is right here a full view with the seed stitch, and then you got the stockinette strip here, and then you got some garter stitch, and then the 8 cable, the 4 cable, and then it goes into the diamond and then repeats on the other side. And the back looks exactly the same. And the arms are the same as well, just how Rory Gilmore's sweater was. However, if I had to rate this, I would give it probably a 6 or a 7. No. That's being too mean to myself. I think I would give it an 8. The reason though is because of the type of yarn I used. This yarn is very soft. I don't think this yarn is appropriate for this type of sweater. I should have gone for more of a thick wool instead of a thick acrylic like this. Like it's so soft and so warm. It feels like I'm literally laying in a cloud right now, which is good, but it's so flimsy. Like if I shake my arm a couple of times, it can easily go undone. And I feel like if I was using a wool instead, or at least a wool acrylic blend, it wouldn't do that. are the Winx, we are the Winx. We are the Winx. Layla, or Aisha, is a fairy that is also the princess of Andros and is the fairy of waves. She is one of my favorite fairies next to Flora and Musa, and I thought it would be fun to try and create the outfit she wears after she completes her transformations. Looking at the screenshots I took and also some photos from Google, it was clear to me that her outfit was made with a flowy fabric, which would be a bit tricky to replicate, but never fear. I like stressing myself out, so I continued on with the challenge. I decided to go about everything piece by piece, so I broke it down into sections. I would make shorts, which is easier for me to crochet, a bandeau that's knit, and the rest of the pieces that go on top will be knit as well, since I think knit pieces are more flowy than crochet. The other thing was that her clothes were sparkly, so I found a dark green yarn that was sparkly, but with the light green yarn, I had to make my own sparkles, so I got this metallic thread string thing to use while I knit with the light green yarn. I took all my measurements even though I already had them written down, and then got to work starting with the crochet shorts. I have a crochet shorts tutorial on my channel, but for a quick rundown of what I did, I chained 7 and then did 50 rows of half double crochet rib stitch. After I finished those 50 rows, I slip stitched both sides together and then made 1 row of half double crochet around the top. Using 2 stitch markers to help me know where to increase, I worked half double crochet around, increasing at the stitch markers until I had to make a seam in the middle to separate my legs. For the seam, I chained 10 and then did 3 rows for each leg. Oh my gosh, so this is what the shorts came out to look like. And I don't know if you can see it on camera, but they are so sparkly, like incredibly sparkly. And it's one of like the 4 pieces that I have to do for Layla's outfit. They look so cute. I'm becoming a Winx girly. After I finished the shorts, I got started with knitting the bandeau, which, by the way, was my first time ever knitting a bandeau. I cast it on and then realized that I cast it on with the yarn attached to the ball, so I had to start over. Then I cast it on again, but then realized that my needles were too long to use for an in the round project, so I started over. Then I cast it on again with the right needles and worked on the bandeau. Then when I finished it, it was too small to fit over my shoulders, so I started over. Finally, after casting on with 77 cast-ons, I knitted my first bandeau. It started with 2 rows of rib stitch and then 29 rows of stockinette, ending with 2 rows of rib stitch. The outfit was coming out really cute, and I honestly think I could have just left it like this, but we have an outfit to finish. It was time to move on to the light green sections, and let's just say working with small yarn is incredibly tedious.
Said he was attacked, but there's no signs of forced entry and everything a thing in his head.
You think he's lying?
Yeah, no, I don't know what to think, but they get a 12 grand stashed in his apartment.
Oh my god, this has been taking forever. I've been working on this since like 11 a.m. and it's now 6 o'clock and this is all I've gotten done. But I pushed through, of course, and eventually got done with the back bottom part. So I just finished the second part of the bottom piece, and now I'm just going to finish all the rest off camera because I just want to go ham really quick. I was getting nervous because I was running out of metallic thread and I knew there was no way for me to get more anytime soon, but I just continued working on the pieces, making sure I didn't waste anything that was needed. But of course I ran out, so I had no choice but to continue without it. On the plus side though, I finished every piece with it besides half of this body wrap part, so I was okay with that. I was going to make the body wrap part longer, but of course I ran out of the light green yarn. I've officially finished every single piece that I need to finish Layla's outfit. So this piece right here is basically the piece for the back of the bottoms. This piece right here is the piece that goes on top of the back to have it look like it's fabric. This piece is to be on top of the bandeau, like on the side kind of, and it wraps to the back. This is for the front of the bottoms where it's gonna connect to the side like this, and then I'm gonna have like my leg out right there and stuff, and then the little ring is gonna be right there, and then this is gonna be on top of here, wrapped around, connecting the rings together for both sides. And then this piece that I unfortunately ran out of the glitter thread, this will be wrapped from my stomach all the way to my shoulder in this photo here. So yeah, I am just going to randomly put it together. I'm just gonna fold this and then kind of tuck it into the ring and then do the same with this. I'm gonna connect these first though by the corners, just like a regular stitch, like stitching them together. And then I'm gonna attach this to the bandeau and then go from there. So I don't have a like a master plan. I'm just sticking them together and hopefully it fits. The next day, it was time to sew everything together. I first started by putting the shorts and the bandeau on so that I could use the stitch markers and mark exactly where I needed to sew the light green pieces on so it can look as accurate as possible to Layla's outfit. After, I took the pieces off gently and began sewing everything together. I didn't have any sort of rhyme or reason to it. I just sewed it on in a way that I thought would work, and fortunately for me, it did. So this next outfit is Layla's or Aisha's fairy outfit from Winx Club when she does her transformations. I think it's super cute. I tried to dress it up with, like, she wears her hair down, so I tried to wear my hair down. I got some wings to complete the outfit, and I also have on these black boots, but she wears green boots, but I only had black, so I went with them, and I think they're cute. It goes with my hair, black boots, black hair, and then my black choker, and I added my little bracelet here, and I even did my nails. They're not like for the video, but it flows with the costume. I feel like if I did more of like a flora or a bloom costume, I think my nails would go with it, but yeah. The only thing with this is that I feel like I should have blocked this part and this part because it's curling up a bit. It's curling up a bit, and I feel like if I blocked it, it would just sit straight and it would be more accurate to the picture. The other thing that I messed up on was this part. If you can see in this photo here, this part goes more down and like a diagonal more so than this, which is more vertical and going a bit higher on the chest. But if I were to rate this on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give this a 9 out of 10, mainly because it came out way cooler than I expected. This part, I had to add my own glitter with this yarn, metallic yarn, and it came out so beautifully. Hopefully you can see it on camera because it is so sparkly. I also got these wings to, oh my gosh, I keep falling. I also got these wings to complete the outfit, and yeah, I originally recorded this with my hair out, but I wanted to see how it would look like without my hair out and more into a bun. If I had like a brown wig, I would have put it on, but I don't, so you get what you get.
Sweetheart, sorry I'm late. I was looking everywhere for you.
Hey, we're busy here.
Are you really? It looked to me like the two of you were just leaving.
I was pretty excited to get to this one. I've wanted to make this jacket for a long time now, and even purchased a pattern for it last year or earlier this year. But just so I can say, oh, I freehanded this. I decided to do everything without using the pattern and went and took some screenshots. On Howl's jacket, he has 2 front panels that have 2 diamonds on each row with 3 diamonds in each column. The back of the jacket is completely blue and the inside is a red. To do the inside, I purchased some lovely red fabric from the store, but I never got to sewing it on because laziness. Each arm has a gold rim to the arm cuffs with white and then gold again before transitioning into pink. To start the cardigan, I first took a billion years to draw out a diamond grid that I could follow for the front panels. Drawing grids really isn't my forte, and I grew incredibly impatient with myself trying to figure out how wide the panels should be, and if it's at a certain width, then how wide should the diamonds be. I eventually settled on this and began the grid. I learned from my last grid video that I had to separate the colors instead of crocheting them into the stitches as I go so that it would be neater, but after a while of working on the grid, I was realizing that no matter what I did, it wasn't as neat as I wanted it to be. But I continued on and completed the first 3 bottom diamonds. It wasn't until I started the second row of diamonds that I realized that it looked like a disaster to me. The grid I created didn't flow into itself at all, and I genuinely was about to cry. I was on a trip to Universal Studios at the time and was completely stressed out with the fact that I had no clue on how I was going to get this project done. The worst part of a project is when you hit a moment when you think it's turning out horrible and you're unsure if you should give it up or continue because there's a possibility that it just might turn out okay. So I scrapped the project until I got home and enjoyed my trip. Once I got home, I was looking through my old crochet projects and saw my patchwork cardigan. It was just squares sewed together, and then it felt as if I had a weight lifted off my shoulders. What if I made diamonds and sewed them together just like the patchwork cardigan? I've made diamonds before, kind of, with my bow tutorial I did on my fall crochet video. So I took apart my grid that I was working on and got to work with making the diamonds. Here is a photo of all the pieces you need for the entire coat. And here is an image of how many of each piece you'll need for the front panels. To create the full diamond and the half horizontal diamond, first chain 2. Then you're going to single crochet into 1 stitch. Chain 1 and turn your work. On the next row, you're going to single crochet into the stitch. After, in the same stitch, single crochet once more, which is an increase. Chain 1 and turn your work. You'll then have 2 stitches. Work 1 normal single crochet into the first stitch and an increase into the second stitch. Chain 1 and turn your work. For every row from now on, you're going to add an increase into the last stitch until you reach 20 stitches or 20 rows. If you're making the half diamonds, you can chain 1 and cut off here. But to make the full diamond, on the next row, instead of increasing on the last stitch, you're going to decrease. To decrease, insert your hook into the second to last stitch, yarn over, and pull through. Then insert your hook into the last stitch, yarn over, and pull through again. Then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Do this until you have 1 stitch remaining. Then chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. To create the half vertical diamond and the half vertical horizontal diamond, first chain 2. Then you're going to single crochet into 1 stitch. Chain 1 and turn your work. On the next row, you're going to single crochet into the stitch. After, in the same stitch, increase. Chain 1 and turn your work. You'll now have 2 stitches. Work 1 normal single crochet into the first stitch and an increase into the second stitch. Chain 1 and turn your work. From now on, you're only going to increase on 1 side. So for this row, don't do any increases. At the end, chain 1 and turn your work. Now, once you get to the end of this row, you'll increase. Then chain 1 and turn your work. You're gonna increase on every other row in the last stitch of the row until you reach 10 stitches. If you're doing the half vertical horizontal diamond, you can stop here, chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. To finish the half vertical diamond, continue on, but in the next rows, you're going to decrease on every other row in the last stitch of the row. Do this until there is 1 stitch left, then chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. Here is the photo again to show you how many pieces of each you'll need for the front panels. After I completed all the pieces I needed, I laid the pieces out and began slip stitching them together. I didn't do anything exact or extravagant, I just literally slip stitched them randomly, and this unfortunately took me around 2 to 3 hours to do, but I pushed through and completed it. The next day, I started on the arms. For the arms, I chained 71 in the gold color, and I single crocheted 5 rows of the gold and then switched to white for 15 rows. After I finished those 15 rows, I used the gold once more for 5 more rows, and then after that started with the pink for 60 rows. But halfway through, of course, like the trend throughout this video, I ran out of the pink yarn, so I just went ahead and started on the back panel. To get started with the back panel, I first laid the front panels out to measure them in order to figure out how long and wide the back panel should be. I got started on the back panel and halfway through realized that I made the back panel to the exact size of both of the front panels. And because that leaves no room in the front, I frogged it and started over. I chained 125, which was perfect, but then, of course, I ran out of yarn. So the next day I went to Michael's, and what do you know? They ran out of the yarn too! Twins! I had no choice but to choose a lighter shade of blue and started over once more. So for the next 2 days, I worked on the arms and the back panel interchangeably because single crocheting something of this size, 35 inches wide to be exact, is extremely tedious and taxing on my mind, hands, and soul. But I eventually finished the arms and back panel and it was time to put them together. I added a pink border to the sides of the front panels to make it look more neat, and then I turned everything inside out and sewed the front panels to the back panel first, and then the arms onto the sides, and then sewed all of the sides together. After, I pulled it right side out and added a gold border to the sides where a ribbing would be, added the color, and I was done! I was done! Here we have the last piece for this video. If you can tell, if you are a fan of Howl's Moving Castle, then you should know that this is Howl's jacket, and I probably, talked about it earlier in the video. But yeah, this is the complete product. I was gonna add this red into the jacket, but I got really lazy when it came to having to hand sew everything. And I feel like there's a way that I can actually use the sewing machine to do this, but I have to do some more research because I don't want to mess up the cardigan. But so I'm gonna put that on hold, but I am gonna try and do it. Maybe one day when I have free time and I'm not working on any other projects, I will hand sew it in here because I love the way that that fabric feels. And he does have red on the inside of his jacket, so it would make it more accurate. This took a very long time. I was honestly going to scrap this because, as you saw, I was struggling so much with this, but I figured out what to do and it came out incredibly amazing. If you can tell though, the back blue is different from the front blue because I ran out of yarn and the store didn't have any more of this yarn. But they are pretty close to each other that I don't think it makes the biggest difference. Also, this back panel was an absolute monster. It was all single crochet, and I've never single crocheted anything this big, so it was very tedious, but I got it done. The sleeves are here and done. This is what it looks like if I decide to actually wear the jacket. Oops. I purposely made the sleeves long because they look pretty long in the photos that I was looking at. And I don't actually ever see Howl putting his hands into the actual jacket. So I just made them a bit longer, just like this. But it came out super cute. I'm gonna put my glasses on. Cause you know, you got a blind girl right here. If I were to rate this, I would give this a 9 out of 10. It's not a full 10 out of 10 because I wanted the collar to do like, I wanted to, yeah, the collar is pretty flimsy and I wish there was a way I could just make it go straight up. I probably have to use more, like maybe like a cotton yarn. I feel like a cotton yarn would make it pretty secure and solid. Obviously it's not 10 out of 10 because I didn't put the fabric in like I was supposed to. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn close to it. Oh, another reason is because the colors don't match. But yeah, besides all of that, this came out pretty nice. I'm really happy about this. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. So sorry about this gigantic wait, but it is finally here. I can't wait to see you in the next videos. Bye!